Outlander Season 7, Episode 5, which featured reunions and separations, and laid the stage for the pivotal battle of the Revolutionary War conflict, kept fans interested. Season 7 of Outlander is taking us steadily but surely towards the Battle of Saratoga as the American Revolution intensifies. The British Army, with whom William has been reunited, has taken control of Fort Ticonderoga, and before we get there, Claire and Jamie must deal with the fallout, while in 1980, Bran and Roger are looking into the mechanics of time travel. William is seen arriving at Fort Ticonderoga in the first scene of this new Outlander episode. He meets with General Simon Fraser and finds out that Captain Richardson, who had earlier dispatched him on the letter delivery job, will be showing up soon. Additionally, he learns that a strategy to cut off New England from the other colonies is being developed by the British troops. Claire, Jamie, and a few others have made it safely away from the fort, but they must keep moving if they want to put the British soldiers in their rearview mirror. Claire is concerned because their group includes some individuals who are not in the best of health to travel. Young Ian and Jamie go take care of them when soldiers attempt to bring them out by shouting while pretending to be Native Americans, and Claire is forced to go look for Mrs. Raven, a person who is particularly terrified of the locals. She locates the poor girl, but she doesn't have time to comfort her, and she is helpless as Mrs. Raven puts a gun to her head and pulls the trigger. Claire is taken prisoner by the Redcoats before she can even process what just happened. Jamie and Ian encounter Denzel Hunter after eliminating a number of British soldiers, who alerts them of Claire's disappearance. When Jamie realizes she has been returned to the fort, he embarks on an expedition with Ian to retrieve his wife. Roger visits Jimmy's school and has a chat with the headmaster after learning that his kid had been treated unfairly by his teacher for speaking Gaelic in the previous episode. The latter turns out to share Roger's viewpoint on the value of preserving Highland culture and explains that Jimmy's teacher's response was merely a symptom of a larger issue: parents pressuring their kids to speak good English in order for them to be able to get a good job and leave the Highlands. The headmaster concurs with Roger that it's unfortunate and that Highland culture should be celebrated instead, so much so that he offers to have Roger give a course on the subject. Later, Brianna and Roger are in Lallybroch, talking about the object with portal-like characteristics she saw in the dam's tunnels in the previous episode. While Roger is making notes in what he jokingly refers to as the Hitchhiker's Guide for time travelers, Bree tries her best to describe the buzzing she heard and what she saw. They develop the working hypothesis that this gateway was produced by a ley line convergent with a nearby stone circle. Their guess, as Roger puts it, is as good as any. The fact that Roger is running late for his Gaelic lesson at school prevents them from having time to look into this further. Roger instructs a variety of young students and their families about the Gaelic and Highland culture while dressed in a kilt. Roger is happy to accept the headmaster's offer to regularly represent Gaelic at the school after class. Rob Cameron, one of Bree's co-workers who was in charge of her hazing, is the next person he meets. The hymns Roger was passing around in class got mixed up with his time travel notepad, which he hands to Roger. Roger is surprised that Rob read the notebook, yet, despite Roger's lack of admiration for the man, the latter manages to extend an invitation to join in for dinner at Lallybroch. That will undoubtedly make for a compelling scene in the future. When Claire is returned to Fort Ticonderoga, she doesn't waste any time taking care of the other prisoners there and requesting food and water from the British soldiers. She even gets to see Walter again, the patient she cared for before, back when the rebels still controlled the fort. But poor Walter is not doing well, and Claire discovers that his illness is likely being caused by an embolism, which was a side effect of his amputation. Despite Claire's best efforts, Walter ultimately succumbs. William admits to Captain Richardson that he was unable to finish his assignment because he misplaced both his horse and the letters he was supposed to send with it. The captain acknowledges that it is terrible that the people who received the letters were in fact spies who required the information contained in those communications, but he tells William that he will undoubtedly have the chance to make up for it because war is long. William later encounters Claire, who is determined to acquire provisions for the other inmates, while he is back in his red cloak. He remembers her from his earlier trips to Fraser's Ridge, and he makes a commitment to do his best to assist her. Later, to William, Claire receives a gift of herbs, supplies, and even a dram of brandy. Jamie and Ian are preparing a strategy to get Claire outside the fort. Ian offers to enter the fort on Jamie's behalf while feigning to be with the Mohawks who have collaborated with the British troops, while Jamie is prepared to storm the location alone in the darkness. He is able to persuade his uncle, and William later spots him inside the fort's walls, where we locate him. They have a cordial conversation at first, and William tells Ian he owes him one for saving his life. William finally connects the dots, though, since he remembers Ian informing him that because Claire and he are connected, and because they first met at Fraser's Ridge, James Fraser is his uncle. William steps in between Ian and Claire after realizing he is there to save Claire, but Jamie is outside the fort's walls firing arrows lighted on fire to divert attention. William agrees to Ian and Claire's request to let them flee, not only because Ian had previously saved him, but also because Claire had previously saved Lord John's life. But he insists that he might not be as understanding the next time he runs into Ian. A few days later, Claire, Jamie, and Ian make their way to the rebel army's camp that they had assembled after leaving Fort Ticonderoga. Ian finds Rachel Hunter there, with whom he is reunited along with his cherished dog Rollo, although he is still unsure of his feelings for her. Jamie runs into Colonel Daniel Morgan just before his contract with the Continental Army is about to expire, allowing them to leave for Scotland. Colonel Morgan is delighted by Jamie's shooting prowess and invites him to join his squad of riflemen. Later that day, Jamie informs Claire that he agreed and that Scotland will have to wait a little while longer because he doesn't feel ready to give up the war against the rebels just yet. Claire comprehends Jamie's desire to be a part of what happens next, since she is aware that the Battle of Saratoga is approaching and that it will be a turning point for the Americans. Although Jamie's position as a rifleman will keep him away from conflict, which gives Claire comfort, the two talk about their desire to stand up for what they believe in and how they feel about possible death. Jamie states that because he has led a fulfilling life, he is less terrified of dying than he formerly may have been. Instead, he is concerned about shortening the life of a young man who would be the target of his pistol. With that moment, Outlander appears to be hinting once more that Jamie will need to fire at a young soldier, which begs the issue of whether William could be that man. The show left us this week, though, not on this unsettling notion. Instead, Roger is having a great time dancing about to the beat of Scottish music in the kitchen of Lallybroch when he discovers someone watching him through the window. Roger rushes outdoors to capture Jemmy and Mandy, since he must be the person they've seen around the property before. When he does, he is in for a perplexing surprise, since the man he clutches is none other than Buck Mackenzie, a distant ancestor of Roger.